Talk about young shakes. Chicago 2 represent. Just change. And this for my city.
Hey, I do it for my city. Dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gon' first round. For my city. Dog, I ain't never.
Hello, this is Lacy L Jr. of Rice Fame Group, welcoming you to Chat with HBCU Champions, Season 2, Episode 12, featuring head coach Kenny Blakeney from Howard University, whose men's basketball team won the MEAC Championship this year. So congratulations and welcome to the show, Coach.
Thank you, Coach Lacy. I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here today.
Oh, most definitely. We're glad to have you. Please tell us about yourself, including about your coaching experience.
Well, born and raised here in Washington, D.C., not too far from the Howard University. Grew up playing baseball literally right here on the campus of Howard University. So was very close and had one of my mentors was a guy named Chuck Hinton that played for the Washington Senators, later was the head manager here at Howard for baseball. And so have had the influence of this university always around me as a person, and grew up playing all three sports: football, basketball, baseball. Played at DeMatha High School for legendary Morgan Wooten. Spent my college years at Duke University playing for Coach Mike Krzyzewski, and when I was done playing in 95, 96, I jumped right into coaching and have been in and out of coaching since 95, 96, but have had 2 stints of doing some entrepreneurial things as well that has had me out of the coaching profession for about 10 years. So a different trek, I think you should say, and a different journey, but it's been one that has prepared me for this opportunity here at Howard University.
Okay. So you're a DeMatha graduate, one of the elite schools.
Yes, sir. Very lucky and fortunate to have the experience to play for Coach Morgan Wooten. That really changed my life, and his influence is very heavily on our program, even with things we do with summer camp and the way we practice and the way we play.
Okay, that's great to hear. Great to hear. Well, please tell us about your team. Who were your key athletes, and what were some of the accomplishments that your players and yourself received this year?
Well, we had a chance to be a special team when we started out and didn't know what that meant. I knew we could be really good, and I used the word special because there was only, I think, 2 teams in the history of our program that have gone to the NCAA tournament. And one of the things that every day when I came to the gym, what I would do is I would look up in the rafters and see those championship banners and wonder why they weren't more up there. And I think that was something that really motivated us and certainly motivated me. We had a group of guys, Coach Lacy, that I really felt that had a chip on their shoulders, guys that were, probably overlooked, guys that were given the opportunity to probably showcase their abilities and talents. And that's not only our student athletes, but I think as a staff as well. I know I wasn't Howard's first pick, and that still has a chip on my shoulder to know that that I wasn't their first pick, and to understand that I knew I could do a good job here. And I think that's with our staff, with our players, we worked daily and we played during our opportunities that we had with games with that chip on our shoulder. So we were fortunate enough to win the regular season championship. I think that was the first time since 1992, and to win the MEAC tournament. Not a team at Howard hasn't done that since 1987, 86. So it's been a very long time since a team has won the MEAC tournament and also the regular season tournament in the same year. So great run. We went to the NCAA tournament and matched up with a great Kansas team that had been #1 for most of the year, and had a great first half. But our inexperience and their ability to play in those moments really showed in the second half.
Okay. Yeah, that seems to be the story of the HBCU life. Win the conference and immediately get the 16th or lower seed to play the number 1 seed. So,
no doubt. No doubt.
Hopefully one day they'll decide to look at the total body of work and compare those with, I guess, what we would consider other mid-majors.
No doubt. And I think, our conference is taking a look at trying to make the playing field a little bit more balanced with some of the scheduling rules that they've implemented. And, as a staff, we're looking at trying to figure out scheduling wise, are there things that we can be doing that, if we're fortunate enough to win our league and our league tournament and make it to the NCAA tournament, that we're not a 16 seed. So those conversations, Coach Lacy, are taking place, and we're trying to figure out that formula. And certainly we would love to be able to have a little bit more of a balanced opportunity with the rest of the mid-majors, as you said, to be able to kind of get in there and maybe have a 14 seed or a 13 seed or a 12 seed and have an opportunity to move on during the NCAA tournament.
Okay. All right. It's great to hear then that those conversations are taking place. Well, tell us a bit about your conference and your competition this year.
Well, we play in the MEAC conference, the Mid-Atlantic Athletic Conference, and it is this year, I think we were ranked the 26th best conference in the country, which is the lowest that our league has ever been. So when you kind of look at the data and the numbers, it was the best year ever for the history of our league. And we were very fortunate to go 11-3 in our league. We have some tremendous teams, universities, and also some outstanding coaches. Norfolk State with Coach Rob Jones, North Carolina Central with Coach Lavelle Moten. You look at Morgan State with Coach Kevin Brodus. There's so many great coaches in our league. And to go night in and night out against so many historic universities with the stories and the legacy and the alums that have gone to our prestigious universities, it's an honor and a privilege to represent Howard.
Okay, all right. And you, in talking and me being from the Commonwealth of Kentucky, I know that you played University of Kentucky this year.
Yeah, it was our first game of the year, and going into that game, we had a chance to watch them compete against Kentucky State. That was a great game for us to kind of get a feel for the University of Kentucky and see them early on in their schedule and calendar year. And I really thought that it was one of those opportunities for us that gave us, I think, confidence to go into our season and really get better day in and day out. And it was kind of nice. Coach Calipari, after the end of the game, we got spanked pretty good by 30 points, and rightfully so. We didn't come in and stay locked in the way that we needed to stay locked in. But from his expert eye, he knew that we had a good team, and talked about in the press conference that we would be a team that he could see representing our league and going to the NCAA tournament. And that was something that always stayed on my brain, his kind words and the things he said about our program.
Okay. Well, no matter what people have said about him in the past, he does have a lot of kind words for the HBCU teams that he brings in, and because I remember in the past covering Kentucky State games when they played, and he had a lot of great things to say about them, and rightfully so. He was disappointed in his players to a certain extent in one of the games. And Kentucky State kind of exposed some weaknesses that UK had that particular year. And so I said and I've seen other coaches at post game interviews who were not as complimentary towards the opponent, especially during a blowout. But he was gracious, and that left a great impression upon me. That, like I said, I knew about the Coach Cal, from UMass, and how he and Coach Cheney used to go at it whenever UMass and Temple were playing, and how he and Coach Pitino would go at it, and so he proved himself to be a very honorable man, and I'm glad that he did give Howard the opportunity to play, especially there in Rupp Arena. It's a great basketball atmosphere, and that will give you an example of what it's like to be in the tournament early on in the season.
No doubt. And I sent Coach Calipari a note after the season once we got to the tournament and thanked him again for his kind words and having the belief in our program and understanding, from his lens, how teams kind of progress through the season. And it made me a fan of his to, because I believed in our team and seeing other people believe in our vision and what we could possibly achieve. It just gave me a little bit more confidence. So I'll forever be grateful to Coach Calipari and for what he saw in our program and his belief in our team.
Great. Well, tell us about your postseason.
Yeah, it was a quick turnaround. You win the MEAC tournament on a Saturday and you get together on a Sunday and kind of find out as you're watching Selection Sunday, the NCAA, selection show on CBS, and, you look through all the pairings and you see your name pops up and you get the opponent and it's like, okay, you got to go to work, right? There's media requests that you have to do. There's logistics of everything in terms of the quick turnaround of, what your flight situation is going to look like, what the hotel situation is going to look like, what the bus situation is going to look like, what the food situation is going to look like, practice time. There's so many details that you have to kind of have on your plate. But the main thing is you got to get ready for Kansas. So going through film, watching them, knowing their history and their tradition that they've had it with that program, and getting out to Des Moines, Iowa within 24 hours, and it was just a quick turnaround, Coach Lacy. And for our program, for our university, for our student athletes, for their student experience, I'm just very blessed that we had that opportunity to play, but I think also to get a taste of what this thing's about. To understand that the things now, when we get to these points, if we're able to get back to the NCAA tournament, maybe some of the challenges that we had against Kansas, we will remember what those felt like. We'll remember those moments where, we didn't achieve the things that we were trying to execute and achieve. Now with that experience, now with that kind of, we know what to do and how to do those things. And that goes for me and my staff as well, just trying to get better, trying to improve. I haven't stopped thinking about that opportunity in that game and, for us, how to get better.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because, one of the mid-majors did make it very far in the tournament. And several of them did very well this year. So you never know when you might catch some of those teams when they have their off day, or, I, as a coach, I know too that sometimes those players, they get that excitement in them, and then they're playing out of the world, like you've never seen them play before, It's like, well, why didn't you do that earlier in the season?
Well, it's the game of runs, right? And
Right.
in NCAA tournament, what makes March so exciting is that you do have those moments, and you see FDU makes a run, you see Florida Atlantic makes a run, you see San Diego State. That those are two teams with FAU and San Diego State that were playing in the semifinal and a national championship game. So it's possible that a team like us at Howard University can make a run. Do you need some luck? Yeah, but if you can if you can win your first game, you can get to the Sweet 16. If you can get to the Sweet 16, you can get to the Final Four. And there's been a pattern there that teams have kind of laid down that foundation. Mid-major teams have laid down that foundation of kind of how to travel and do it. But you have to be really good on that particular day, and you might need a little luck for that to happen. And having a chance to be a part of March Madness and to be a part of 2 national championships when I was a player at Duke University, I don't want to bring it up to people who are in Kentucky, but, that Leitner shot, we needed a little bit of luck to be able to advance to go to the Final Four. And, those things, if you look at the history of the NCAA tournament, most of those teams that advance, there's a play or two that kind of changes that game that probably shouldn't happen. So there's definitely opportunities for mid-major colleges, but you need a couple of things to kind of go your way to be able to travel that route.
Right. So how did your run in your conference tournament go?
It went exactly as planned. With our run in the MEAC tournament and our run in the league play, we went 11-3 in the league play. We took a difficult loss, our first home road game, against University of Maryland Eastern Shore. Coach Jason Crafton that coaches there does an unbelievable job. He's one of the, I think, best defensive-minded coaches in the country. His team led the nation in turnover percentages per NCAA Division I this year, and they got after it. They did a terrific job there, and I think if not for injuries, he would have been a guy that had a chance to be right there when it was all said and done at the end of the season. We kind of gotten through some of the hurdles and challenges in our conference. Norfolk State has been, and North Carolina Central have been the 2 premier programs over probably the last, 10 years in our conference. Both of those programs are extremely well coached. Coach Rob Jones down at Norfolk State has done an unbelievable job and, taking over the realms and taking that program and becoming one of the top programs, in our region and one of the better coaches in our country. Same thing for Lavelle Moten. Lavelle has done some things down at North Carolina Central and been a part of some historic runs that has kind of separated their program. So guys that we really have a lot of respect for. We had to go through Norfolk State this year to kind of get to the other side, and was very lucky and fortunate to beat them several times during the regular season. We split with North Carolina Central. We split with a really good Morgan State team. And then that catapulted us to the MEAC tournament, and was lucky to kind of have a situation where at the end of the season, we had a young man that had a concussion. He missed our last 2 regular season games, but we were able to get him back for the MEAC tournament. And, with him, we were able to kind of go through the MEAC tournament. We played South Carolina State in the first round and played really well against them. They were very eager and very hungry. We had just played them a couple weeks just prior to the MEAC tournament. Our second round game was against Coppin State. And they were eager to play us and had our number for a couple of games the previous season. And then in our championship matchup, it was our third matchup with Norfolk State, who was led by, Joe Bryant Jr., Chris Bankston, 2 guys that were all league guys for Norfolk State. Coach Jones was the previous coach of the year. And I really respect that program. And game came down to the last, 42 seconds. And was going back and forth tooth and nail, and we were able to prepare, some things down the stretch, which allowed us to be lucky enough and blessed enough to win the championship.
Okay, all right. So that was an exciting championship game then.
It was one of the most exciting games I've ever been a part of, and I've been really fortunate and lucky to be a part of a lot of terrific basketball games.
Okay, all right. What honors did you receive this year?
The honors that I was fortunate enough and lucky enough to receive were the MEAC Coach of the Year Award, the ECAC Coach of the Year Award, the HBCU All-Star Coach of the Year Award, and the John McClendon Coach of the Year Award, the Boxer Row Coach of the Year Award, and I think that's it. But it was, it was a great team effort, and it first starts with my family, to be honest with you, and my wife and daughter that allow me to be able to be present and not present during the season, and so I really owe a lot to them, and then my staff, and our athletic director and our president, Mr. Kerry Davis, our athletic director, and our president, Mr. Dr. Wayne Frederick, our staff, our associate head coach, Rob Balanis, Tyler Thornton, who does a great job for us, Steve Ongley, and then Dan Marks, our chief program strategist. So it's a collective effort. It's not, they just kind of tell me what to do. Where do I need to be? What do I need to do? And then we kind of, but we have a great working relationship, and it's you're not able to you're only as good as your team, right? And the people around you. And, we're in the people business. And, I'm very lucky and fortunate that we have great people around our program and around our team.
Okay. Well, what do you look for in prospects? And can you tell us about some of your current signees?
Yeah, with our prospects, there's kind of three things that I look for. First and foremost is character. It's really important to me to know that we have young men that have great character, that, you can have them around, because our atmosphere is a family atmosphere. And our team is around my family and our assistant coaches, staff, their families, our, family here at Howard University. So we take character very seriously with our program. The second thing is our basketball IQ. Do we have young men that have high basketball IQ, so they have a feel for the game? What is their level of skill? Can they dribble, pass, and shoot? And then the last thing for me is toughness. Because there's a certain level of toughness that you need to play in the MEAC. Our league is a very competitive, physical, older league. And, our program and the way we practice, the way we play, it's very demanding. So that physical and mental toughness is really needed for young men to be a part of our program.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned, toughness of the MEAC. How does that compare to, like, say, the ACC, with you being a former player?
I think if you, put our teams up against the ACC on any given night, I would love to see the results. We have guys that are, physically and, as good as any physical guys that are in the ACCs. We have guys that are, that can play. Like Joe Bryant Jr. is a young man from Norfolk State that got invited to Portsmouth, and then he got invited to Chicago. He's on NBA teams' radars. Some of those ACC teams or Power 5 teams, they just may have more kids like Joe Bryant. But I think with the experience that our young men have, some of the maturity that our young men have, when we talk about like the NCAA tournament and how you can make a run from getting into first round to getting to the Sweet 16, getting into the Sweet 16 to getting to the Final Four. It's the same thing with any of those games that you would play against an ACC or Power 5 team. If you catch them on the right night and they're not bringing their A game, all bets are off.
And so now, as far as being a former PWI athlete, when we talk about the atmosphere, I know about the reputation of places like Duke, like Indiana University, and some others where pretty much your fans, the student body are almost right on top of the players. so they contribute a lot to that, to the pressure that's on the court. And I've talked to some HBCU coaches in the NAIA, and some of them, they have much smaller gyms, which kind of force that particular atmosphere where student athletes are almost right there on the court. And so how is that the MEAC, the atmosphere there in the MEAC, how does that compare to some of the PWI conferences that you visited?
Yeah, I mean, there's some tough places to play, and ours is included. We, from the time we came back to school in January, starting the second semester, we sold out probably, all of our basketball games. And it made it a very challenging place to play. When, we played Morehouse this year, I don't know if this building has seen as many people in it as we had for our Morehouse game. Nationally televised game, obviously there's a huge presence of Morehouse alums in the DMV, the District, Maryland, and Virginia. And it really was an electric atmosphere. It was, we have photos, and it looked like images that you might have seen at the Rucker League when Dr. J played back in the day, with guys, sitting off of buildings, and we had guys in the stands. My family members could not get seats for the game and had to stand in the hallways, in the aisles, and to witness the game. We've built and developed an incredible home court atmosphere here. And part of that, Coach Lacy, is that, from my experience at Duke, we can go and play where our, I guess the G League Washington Wizards NBA team play at. But for me, it's about the student experience. And I want our students to have an experience where when they're here and when they leave Howard University, they can say, wow, I went to the basketball games, and that was a huge part of my student experience at Howard University. I love seeing the, 3 different cheerleading squads and dance squads. I love seeing the fraternity step. I love hearing the band play. I love seeing the DJ and dancing at timeouts and at halftime and during intermissions. All of those things that are so significant about our culture here at an HBCU are things that I want to showcase and have as part of our student experience and fan experience, for that matter, as well. So, our place is, I think, a great place to start when you talk about, HBCU experiences, and especially in the MEAC. Norfolk State does an unbelievable job, and their place is really challenging to play. North Carolina Central, I used to go to North Carolina Central games when I was at Duke, and it was literally like a Rucker game. You had guys get dunks, and the fans start running out of the court, giving the players high fives. So that was my first kind of, I love seeing that. But, Morgan State this year, they sold their place out, and they have a beautiful facility. Magic Johnson was in the house. The fans were going crazy. And so there's some atmospheres that are in the HBCUs that maybe we don't have all the bells and whistles that, some of the PWIs have, but we do have a culture. We do have a tradition. We do have a history within our sports games that some of those universities don't have.
Okay. All right. Glad to hear that. Definitely glad to hear that. we've had several Howard coaches on previous episodes, but from your standpoint, we want to get your take on the institution, the programs there, and the majors that your athletes seem to take most.
Yeah. I think, Coach Lacy, when I think about Howard and I think about my experience here, what makes this place so special is the people. And I've had the luck and been blessed to work at some universities and attend some universities that are considered some of the better, higher educated universities in the country. Working at a Harvard, working at Columbia University, attending a Duke University, now being a part of this campus and community here at Howard. The thing that I could say is that you have young men and women that are attending Howard that are striving to be the best at whatever those things that they're looking forward to moving towards in the future are. Like, we have young men and women that are trying to be the president of the United States, or young men and women that are trying to be the president of their country, wherever they're from. They're trying to be the best, MD that they can be, maybe the best PhD, whatever, the best person that's coming out in the school of business. It's just one of those places that when you walk around, it inspires me. And, I haven't felt this on a college campus. I felt this at Harvard. I felt this at Duke. I felt this at Columbia University. I felt this at, those places that really are considered to be, kind of like the cream of the crop of higher ed. And I see this here at Howard. And that's why I love this place. Because there's not, how lucky and blessed am I to say that I can teach, mentor, coach at a place that, is producing vice presidents or, Supreme Court justices, or the first UN ambassador, or the first governor of Virginia, the first mayor of New York, the first woman to vote in a major election. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how awesome is that?
Mm-hmm. The first black VP.
Absolutely. Who's
first
been
woman VP.
Yeah, who's been an incredible friend to our program. We've had the chance to do some remarkable things with her. I think our team has appeared with her maybe 5 or 6 times since August, doing some stuff on Black maternal health or doing things with Title IX. Being a part of, her dialogue when she's talked about, making her historic trip to Africa. And what a wonderful, ambassador for the university and for our country that VP Harris is.
Right. And so you've already told us about a lot of the support that you've gotten, from your AD, from your president, and as well, from the fans. I know everyone can't say that they have that same fan support where they're selling out every game. And some of what you mentioned with your family having to, stand out in the hall and everything, that kind of, when you were talking about that reminded me of stories I heard from old timers, guys who played back in the 70s, in much smaller gyms, talking about the same thing when they play, especially certain rivalry games. I know some of them talking about people were actually climbing through windows to get into the gym.
That happened quite a bit here. People coming through back doors. I'm rushing the back doors. We had to change our security policies because of those moments.
Well, now that you say that, when I was in school, we did have some backdoor rushers back then too. So yeah, I could feel you on that.
Yeah. But Coach Lacy, it was also, when we got here, it would be 100, 200, 300 people in the gym max. And that would be, both teams, the officials, the people that worked at the scores tables, our family and friends, and, the team's family and friends, the opponent's families and friends, and cheerleaders and the band. So it's something that has been a work in progress. And, it's when I looked at, how do we build this thing up? It was certainly one, we needed to have a presence on our team with kids from the DMV, right? Because if you can win home, you can win outside of home. And we needed to have kids, young men from the DMV. And the other thing is that we felt like those young men from the DMV were battle tested. One of the best high school basketball leagues in the country is the Washington Metropolitan Athletic Conference, which, all of those teams, there's 3 or 4 teams that year in and year out are going to be top 25 teams in the country. When you talk about, Paul VI, you talk about Gonzaga, you talk about the Matha, and then there probably can be a 4th team in there that's going to be year in and year out, some of your better teams in the country. So those young men they're not scared. They've been coached. They've played in front of big crowds. They've played in front of the lights. So it was important and then the other thing is, Coach Lacy, you know their DNA, right? You know who they've been coached by. They've been coached. So those things were important. And then can we get involved with campus? Can we have a presence where we're doing things in the community on campus where, we have such a presence there that, young men and women that are students here at Howard, Howard staff and faculty feel like they know our young men and they felt their presence. They've seen them on campus. They've seen them interact. They've seen them do things in the community to feel like they can come support them. But the last piece of that is now you have to put a product on the floor that's fun to watch and a style that's fun to play. Now, can you do all those things and win? So it's definitely something that is intentional, but there's also a lot that goes on with that, and which culminates with winning.
Right. And many people do not understand that. I know it's very hard for a coach or anyone else to come from a non-winning tradition and try to explain to somebody how to win. But, you came from Duke, where, especially with that basketball program, that was an expectation. All the way through Coach K's retirement, that was an expectation. So, you know what winning looks like, what it takes to win. And so, Howard definitely made the right decision. Even though you weren't the first choice.
Hey, Coach Lacy, I probably wasn't my wife's first choice either, so it's okay.
Hey, but the main thing is that you were chosen in the end. So.
Absolutely. The important word, chosen.
Well, who are the biggest influences in your career?
Oh, wow. That starts at home. And I don't want to go with this long list, but certainly with my mom, she's been unbelievable with her support and, her love. I'm not here talking to you without her. So first and foremost with her, I was lucky to have some coaches, Coach Lacy, when I was little, at the Police Boys and Girls Club and at the Rec Center that were outstanding coaches, not good, outstanding, that were fundamentally based. They stayed within that framework and within that structure, and could teach, but also motivate. That really, I think, influenced me and captivated me to be more, engaged in the game. Then going to DeMatha Catholic High School, obviously having Coach Morgan Wooten as a mentor and a coach there, was something that was really, helpful for me. He's a guy that, was kind of like a continuation of all the other coaches that I had. But now you take, all the things that he's done at the math and put that, what a wonderful experience and how lucky I've been. From that experience at the math, I got to meet the head coach at Notre Dame that just recently stepped down, Mike Bray. Mike was the math grad, and he was a freshman history teacher my freshman year. So I got to know him really well, and he went on to be an assistant coach at Duke University. From Duke University, he went to the University of Delaware, and then Delaware to Notre Dame, where he just stepped down as the head coach a couple months ago. So he has been very influential to me. Obviously, Coach K, what a mentor, what a guy to kind of, just unbelievable. Just really lucky with that relationship. He's a guy that follows our program right now, and as someone that I love to get his text messages or get his phone calls. They mean a lot to me. And then a guy that that's like he's been so influential in my life. Last probably since 2007, but even before then, and our relationship kind of shifted in 2007, is Coach Tommy Amaker. I have the utmost respect for that man, and he's brilliant. And I love him and everything that he's been able to give me guidance with, and do it in a way that has helped me grow. I've been very lucky. And then my relationship with my athletic director here, Mr. Kerry Davis, has been an incredible partner, incredible mentor. His years at HBO, his years as an entertainment lawyer, his years as he's an Ivy League guy, Dartmouth undergrad, Cornell Law School, and he's been a guy for me that has been side by side as we've built this thing together, and with his support and his guidance has been, what a partner.
Okay. All right. Well, Coach, as we get ready to wind down, this is your opportunity to give shout outs to anyone you want to recognize.
Yeah, well, thank you, Coach Lacy. I appreciate you having me on the show. This has been a wonderful conversation, and I'd love to someday come back and continue this conversation with you. I'm just, like I said, I'm very blessed, very lucky to have an opportunity to teach, to mentor, to be a leader on this campus that means so much to our world and to our country. I always say, what would our world be without Howard? And when you look at the accomplishments of the alums and, the things that they've done, the success stories, I'm just very lucky to kind of be a placeholder for this community, and hopefully doing a good job where people really love and respect what we're doing. And hopefully, we're making this program better. We're making the infrastructure better. We're contributing to the university in ways that make the university better, but also our community and our country. So I'm very lucky, again, like I said, to be a part of the community here at Howard University, and look forward to this upcoming year to try to, put our best foot forward and, hopefully put a product out on the court that the Howard community, the alums, the city of Washington, D.C., the DMV, and the country can be proud of.
Okay. And before we do wrap up, I would be remiss if I didn't ask this question. It is a question I've had to ask over the last couple of years because of the phenomena. How do you deal with the mental health aspect of coaching?
That's a great question, and I appreciate you bringing it up. It's a big part of our program. We work with a sports psychologist, and we've been doing that since COVID. We tried to implement it in before COVID, but we weren't able to make it work. But since COVID, we've had a sports psychologist that works with our program, and I am big into mental health. I am, we're doing stuff with the Department of Health and Human Services this year, and hopefully impact in that area can influence, and I think also give a little bit of some framework to young men and women that look like you and I. In our community, it's been something that has been shunned upon. And, I've always looked at mental health like this, Coach Lacy. We want to improve our jump shot, so we go to the gym and we work on that. People want to improve their bodies, so they go and either diet or go to the gym and lift weights or do cardio, right? Well, I want to improve my mental health. So I do things that help me improve as a person. And that's been something that I've not shied from. It's something that I'm very open to have those conversations on and about. And, for us being a basketball program with young men that are 18 to 23, 24 years old, I want them to understand that there's tools out there that can help them at a time if they need those tools to feel whole and to feel balanced.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing that. That is a very important aspect, especially in today's athletics, more so than it had been in the past, with the number of suicides and suicide attempts just rising each year. To me, it's heartbreaking. I'm always sad when I see someone younger transition before myself. But, also knowing that they probably did not realize that whatever they're going through is temporary. And there's no need taking my quote is, do not take a permanent action for a temporary situation.
No doubt about it. And, there's outlets and there's things that are in place for everyone to seek help. And I think those, if we understand what those triggers are and those things are that may take us to those places that don't have us feeling maybe the way that we, can feel, there's numbers that we can call to get help and to do the things that we can ask questions and for, so there's opportunities out there that we can use. And I will make sure that before we end this conversation to be able to mention working with the Health and Human the Secretary of Health and Human Services. There's a number that we can call that if there's ever any issues with, the way that we feel and we're not feeling balanced, there's a number and it's 988. You dial 988, and there's people on that other end of that line that can help you and talk through any of those issues and problems that, you may have and may feel, and, be there for you in a time of need. So definitely, we really feel like that's important. And thank you for bringing that up and allowing us to have this conversation and talk about, the mental health challenges that a lot of our young men and women in our community may be going through.
Okay. Well, thank you, Coach Blakeney, for participating in this chat. We hope that you and your program continue to succeed, and we will follow your developments. And I want to thank you, the viewers, for watching this episode of Chat with HBCU Champions. Please visit ricefamegroup.org for more information on replays and HBCU information. Please have a blessed week.
Yeah. Now I'm talking about young shakes. Chicago 2 representatives. Jesse James. And this for my city.
Hey, I do it for my city. Dog, I don't plan on going down. If he think I'm going down, then he gon' first round. For my city, dog, I ain't never been a jumping. If he thinking I'm a going down, then he gone first round. For my city, dog, I ain't never been a chump, and if he thinking I'm a chump, watch him get his head up. For my city, cause I feel like I love her so much, like I owe her so much, but supplying her touch, I will always respect her, I will never neglect her. Bet you hear her naming like every one of my records. No, I'm not stunting, ain't no future in your frontin', right? Gotta get this money, watch me get it all night. Planet flying top flight, higher than space stations. That's why I gotta grind, cause I need it and I hate waiting.